Please welcome our MC to the stage, Near Foundation's Bianca Momand.
Good morning. Day 3. Can't believe we made it. Actually, it's been an amazing 2 days of content, but I'm super excited to be able to MC for the next 2 hours because it's all about engagement, education, and onboarding, things that we actually really need to talk about at Near. So I'm Bianca from Near Horizon. Horizon is a platform within Near Foundation that supports early stage startups. And I'm excited to announce Boris Polania, who will be talking about partnering with universities and how DevHub is taking a look at that. So please welcome Boris to the stage.
Thank you, Bianca, for the introduction. So we definitely are about to start. Okay. So I'm going to talk a little how DevHub is going to influence the near ecosystem through education, right? Oh, I forgot the thing. So yeah. So well, again, thanks. I'm Boris Polania. I'm a DevRel here in DevHub, and I will talk a little about what we were doing in terms of education and developer engagement through education. So first, I will start talking about Near Campus. Right now, Near Campus has three areas. We have the blockchain clubs. The blockchain clubs is basically we are engaging existing blockchain clubs in different universities, so we can add them, engage developers at the earlier stage of their career. So that's the main focus of the blockchain clubs. We're also doing some research. That is the research part. We are engaging PhD, postdocs, and professors so they can add or use NEAR as a part of their research pipelines, either using NEAR as a framework of the general research, or probably focus the research in NEAR specific subjects. We're also something called, is very recently new, called MBS, the NEAR Blockchains, NEAR Business School. NEAR Business School is our approach to business, to university clubs that are not developer focused. I will talk about because it's really new. I will talk about it. So the blockchain clubs, this is what we're doing. So we have engaged around 50 university clubs, 10 more coming about by the end of the year. Right now we have big names like Caltech, like University of California, Santa Barbara, University of California, San Diego. We have University of Illinois, Arizona State, and we also have like a little less known names. We have universities in Africa, we have universities in Brazil, and smaller universities in the United States and Canada. We are focused, more globally, and the university that comes by the end of the year will be more universities for Latin America. Right now, what is it? What is this all about? So the clubs are requesting for funding, for expertise, for technical resources from us. The first cohort already started to receive fund in November. There is one that gets some funding to come here and participate in the hackathon. They are doing. This is we have some base, but it's very flexible. What they can get the funds for, right? They are using hackathons in real life, online workshops, and even some of them are requesting funding to run their own validators nodes. So that's ideas that are coming from them, and we're flexible. We're open. Every region has different needs. Every college has different needs. So we are open to fund them or support them if we can, right? And every single proposal is being posted in SocialDB. You can go to DevHub SocialDB and read the proposal, read the attestation, read what they're doing. So it's completely public. All the members, everything is there. So just if you need more information, a specific club, you can find it there. So we're also doing some partnerships to expand this. For example, some colleges are asking they run their own nodes. DevHub cannot provide the liquidity, so we are just partnered with Metapool. They kind of committing like around $500,000 initially to fund these validators nodes. So they want to put some delegation on the nodes that are studied by the universities. That's the main plan. We're also, keep always talking with Horizon. So how the next steps, how we can bring these developers and make it funders. So that's the kind of partnership we're doing with, trying to, or working with Horizon. Now, research. Research is the PhD, the postdocs, right? So we are now working with 3 teams. They are about to post their proposals. Is University of California, Santa Barbara, Stanford, and University of Calgary. What is this? They are requesting for funding for their own research. I think the first cohort will come in January 2024. They are working in research on smart contract security, cryptography, protocol, etc. The reason we're doing this are multiple, but one, and this is something we have discussed with other parts of NEAR Foundation, not only DevHub, is we want the community to see, we have the numbers like 96 or 97% of the research on blockchain is done either in Bitcoin or in Ethereum. So we want the NEAR to become a household name when the time comes for doing research. If I'm a professor, I'm a postdoc, and I'm about to do research, I know, smart contracts, I want them to consider Rust as a possibility, not only Solidity, and when they consider Rust, that should be using NEAR, stuff like that. And that's what it's, leading us, and hopefully eventually these postdocs, these professors will have their own courses, and they will, add NEAR. So long-term, NEAR should be part of the academic conversation with creating innovation in blockchain. Similarly, every single proposal will be posted before approval in NEAR Social, so everyone can attest, everyone can say what they think. And we also have some partnerships, right? The main partnership is the protocol team, a Bowen team, where we're working with them. They agreed to be the team that will review on the very technical level with each research team. So they don't necessarily do the reviewing, but they will put the other departments in NEAR that will review this proposal for us. So they become like the clearinghouse for analyzing these proposals these guys are about to post. They are already looking at the one from Stanford. They are already looking for the one at University of California, and the Santa Barbara will start looking soon. Now, the NEAR Business School. This is very new. We're thinking about this, but many of the blockchain clubs are not developers, right? Are the economics schools, business schools, management schools. So it kind of didn't fit within the DevHub mission because we are about bringing developers. But then, we're not focusing a little more on founders, and this path of helping developers become founders. So it started to make more and more sense. So we've been talking with multiple, universities, and we'll start hearing the first proposals. But we will do it in partnership with other departments from NEAR, right? The other areas of NEAR. So we don't judge on the business merits of these ideas, but we will rely on the NEAR ecosystem, other like NEAR Foundation, Horizon, Proximity, whoever can give feedback, so we can fund these university clubs. We already started to talk with LSE, mostly in England, a few schools in England, that they have clubs that are not necessarily blockchain technical developer related. Also, we already have pick up the conversation in Harvard. So the interest is there, but we needed to make it work within the DevHub overall mission. But that is happening. I think by the spring 2024 we'll have the first proposal approved, and we're talking mostly in UK, but also Universidad de los Andes in Colombia, and one university in Mexico and United States are interested in looking into this. So, yeah, when we're talking, they're focused on finance. The schools are focusing on finance and business, economics, and management. This is the main idea: how helping developers become founders, helping these guys to become, to launch their business within the NEAR ecosystem, and helping cross the chasm, right? Make it to the other, find a bridgehead and start getting their business up and running. And similarly, anything else, every single proposal will be posted on the social DB, and everyone will be able to look at it and give attestation and their opinion about it. I actually have a recently very recent meetings, some BCs, some accelerators. There's a BC group in Duke University that are really interested in doing this with us. So we will bring also external partners to help us, fine-tune this so we can, help these developers become founders. Oh, and there has also been interest from government that they want to see how they can get involved and in this process. So now we have the boot camps. There are students not only in universities, so there are other institutions that doesn't give accredited courses, but they do have very good developers, very good developers as well. So we are also wanting to engage with them. So we are already talking with 3 of them, mostly 2 of them in Spain, 1 in Latin America. And the approach is the following. Basically, they usually have tracks within existing boot camps, or they are open to run a near-specific boot camps. In any case, it will be either an open web stack or a BOSS track or full course, or Rust-based tracks or courses. So they are open to both tracks, right? So there's 2 ways we can do that, right? We are, having the near-only developer programs is an issue because it's not well known in some areas, but we're pushing also for that. But I think the near-only will be based mostly Rust, smart contracts. BOSS will probably be a track of a 16 course they already have. Again, every single proposal will be in Near Social. So, certified developer program. First cohort just started. We launched with Open Web Academy a pilot. And it will be part of the decentralized deferrals. So we will run similar with China, Korea, and Mexico. So we are already in conversation with all of them. So the idea here is DevHub becomes the certifier. We don't want to certify students. We want to certify projects or institutions or teams of people that want to certify other people. So we create a common curriculum. It's kind of flexible. It's not like very rigid curriculum. But if one project, like for example, Open Web Academy, want to certify within this program, they have to cover specific areas, and we are having even different levels, right? Like the level 1, level 2, level 3, so it can be more difficult. It will be more difficult. So we want to make it more professional. So we created this framework. We are trying this framework with Open Web Academy. It's in the proposal in Near Social. You can read it. And we are trying to make it the standard for every single institution that want to certify developers with us. They have to implement the same curriculum. It's not very rigid, but there is at least some baseline for everyone. So why this? Because we talked with a lot of the students, and they felt that there wasn't consistency. They didn't know what exactly meant to be a near developer. Right? What is BOSS or what is Russ? So we want to give the students a baseline to know that they are putting their time in something that is actually practical and usable within the near ecosystem. So we are becoming like the beacon. Okay, if you want to learn near, this is what you need to learn. You pick who. It could be Open Web Academy, the Chinese DevRels, whoever. But this is what it means to learn near. So that's the reason we're doing it like this. Again, every single proposal will be public, available. Read about it. If you want to run your own program, there are plenty of examples how to do it. You can come to us, read it. So that's the proposal we have. In partnerships, Open Web Academy is running the first pilot. The Chinese DevRels are offering it. The Korean DevRels are really like it. So they want to run it. The Brazil DevRels too. So we are partnering with them. They are our partners here. They will be the ones actually doing the teaching. And we are working with the chart docs because the certificates will be some-bound NFTs. So we are working with them and actually creating the credentials. So that's it. That's what we've been doing. These are the main programs. We're pushing for this. We've only been doing this for a couple, 3 months. Um, I'm working heavily on this program, but also Esther that is sitting there. She's a person you have to talk if you want to get your thing up and running. Yeah, so knock your door in any of the areas. If you want to be a blockchain club, if you want to run your own academy, if you want to more interested on the business side, please come to us. We're open to hear your proposal. So yeah, that's it. Thank you very much, and I'll be around if you have any questions. Thank you.
All right, we got finished a little early, but I'm going to announce the next speaker. It's Max Mizzi from Major League Hacking. I'm used to saying MLH, and not everybody knows what MLH is, especially from the US. So Max, come up on stage. We're going to be talking today about the Web3 Build Incubator Fellowship that MLH did with Near Horizon. And then after that, it'll be followed by a panel with some of the fellows, actually. So welcome.
Thank you, Bianca. Let me just get set up here. All right. So, as Bianca said, here to talk about a partnership that started this summer between the Near Horizon group and Major League Hacking. So I will dive straight into it. Let's see which way takes us forward here. Awesome. So the Web3 Incubator Fellowship. It's been known by a few different names over the last few months, but it's all the same program. The idea is to engage with early career developers and bring Web3 ideas to life. So I'm just going to skip forward real quick and just talk about the Major League Hacking or the MLH community. Not everyone knows about us. We have about 150,000 active members. And we think about active members as people each year who are attending MLH programs, events, hackathons, workshops, and some of the more immersive programs like this fellowship program. We do a lot of co-contribution programs as well as the hackathons that we're well known for. And through all of that have built the world's largest community of early career technologists, spanning over 95 countries, 4,000 universities, 1 in 3 new computer science grads in the US, and a huge amount of diversity, both across the world and in terms of people from different backgrounds. One of the really interesting stats that I want to share here is that within our community, in the last year, about 15%, that's 15%, have built an app in Web3. That's not very enthusing, really, for this kind of community. But there's another stat that comes with that that I think paints it in a very different light, which is that about 60% of our community want to build their first Web3 app in the next year. So there's a huge untapped potential of these student and early career developers to bring them into ecosystems, really be their first experience in Web3, in the blockchain world. So jumping back quickly, what is the mission of the partnership? What this partnership was all about, and in the words of Jared Barnes, to harness the talent and creativity of early career and student developers to grow the Near developer base and convert builders into founders, and ultimately taking ideas from the student community to the mainnet. All right, let's get into how we do this. So this program really consisted of kind of 2 main parts. The first part is a hackathon. It was a weekend-long virtual hackathon event with talks and workshops and lots of engagement from the Near team, from the Near community, and pulling in lots of the MLH community. That hackathon was your application process to get into the 3-month incubator program. So 4 winning teams, the best of all the projects that we saw throughout the hackathon, got into the fellowship program, which is an immersive 12-week program. Folks were spending, 20, 30 plus hours each week working on their projects and their teams with mentorship, with pod leaders, with talks, with workshops, and lots of different opportunities. And then, post-program, like what happens next? The idea of this program is to bring people into the community, bring people into the ecosystem, and provide them opportunities once they've built out, a formal kind of prototype and an early product to really stay in the community and continue to do other activities. One of them being NEARCON. A lot of people say, where are the founders now? And I say, they're right here. They're in this room. They're in Lisbon. They are here to continue building their networks and continue shaping their ideas. And we're going to hear a lot more about that later. So let's dive into these two components of the program. The Web3 Build Hackathon. So this is the bread and butter of MLH running hackathons. We had around 900 people register their interest in the hackathon. Onboarded over 300 new Web3 developers into the Near and Boss ecosystem, something that we're very proud of. And as well as being a great event to bring new developers and hackers into the ecosystem, this was also a huge marketing and brand building initiative, right? Tens of thousands of MLH community members heard about this event, not only that it was taking place, but also the outcomes of it, the winners, the prizes, huge spotlight put on all of that work done. We had over 30 project submissions throughout the weekend, completed project submissions that met the criteria, and through a judging process, we identified all of the right people and all of the right ideas to take through that incubator program. People who had the right commitment, who had the right ideas, had the right technical knowledge, and who had that innovative spark that between MLH and the Near Horizon team we're looking for. So, who showed up to this hackathon? Well, the average age was 22.5. So a really young crowd spread from kind of 17, 18 through to like mid-20s. About 80% undergraduate student level, and about 75% of people opted in to hear more and to stay part of the Near community. One of the really interesting things that we saw here, and tied back to the fact that only a small percentage of people have already started building in Web3, is that on a scale of 0 to 4, the average rating of familiarity with Web3 was 1.5, which is really interesting, right? People were coming to this event not because they're experts, not because they're going to win big bounties and they've been doing this for years, but because they wanted to get their start. They wanted to go from a 1 out of 4 to a 2 to a 3 out of 4 and really build their familiarity and understanding of Web3. So what happened next? We took 4 programs and 4 projects and 14 founders from the hackathon into this incubator style program. It's a 12-week immersive incubator program that provides a real-world environment for these teams and founders to shape their ideas, build out their projects, and lay the groundwork for them to launch ventures. Everyone who came into this program was really thinking about themselves as a founder for the first time, understanding what that means, thinking about building technology from the scrappy kind of project that wins a hackathon through to a product that you can sit down with, with a VC and pitch for funding. That's a huge shift in journey that people had to go through. 4 components to the program that supported people going through that journey. There's a lot of facilitation. So we have a pod leader structure, regular stand-ups, weekly sprint planning, office hours, async troubleshooting, all of the ways that typically in this kind of ecosystem people would be building their projects. A whole bunch of resources, project grants, access to Horizon credits, business mentorship, technical mentorship, training, so asynchronous, LMS-based training, as well as talks, coaching, online learning paths, all the things that people really need to get from their first attempt at building out a Web3 project through to having something that they can pitch and demo. The last piece is really about feedback and iteration. We're big believers in this kind of cohort-based, project-based learning model that people need regular engagement and feedback. So we structured a lot of the program around having monthly demos where all of the teams would sit down and actually demo what they've worked on, get feedback, use that for their sprint planning, treating a lot of the Near Horizon team almost as their early adopter customers, right? Finding out what they wanted to see next, which I think was hugely valuable in steering and direction setting and all of the kind of pivots that the teams went on that we're going to hear more about later on. So quickly introducing the projects. Two of the projects are here to speak for themselves right after this intro, and two others we're gonna cover with some of the MLH team who are here. So the four products were MediBridge, Transpact, StoreHub, and TradeMint. Some of them have even changed their branding and names throughout the program, so some real startup experience here. It's really interesting that we saw a very wide mix of different Web3 and blockchain use cases, from deploying smart contracts to manage like contractual agreements and processes, through to data storage and security, through to e-commerce, through to almost like trade finance. So a lot of the use cases that you've heard about throughout this event have actually been quite organically identified by a group of hackers as interesting areas to deploy Web3 and blockchain technology. I'm not going to introduce everyone here in person. Some of the folks are here in the audience. Some of the folks are here on the panel shortly. If you see any of these people around, make sure to say hi to them at the event. We had fellows from all over the world, so spanning from Egypt to India to Hong Kong to Canada to US to Nigeria. A huge breadth of people from across the MLH community being part of this program. Not only being hackathon winners, but actually completing, all 12 weeks of the program. 6 countries represented, NPS of 83, which represents not only the work that we at MLH have done, but also all of the support and engagement from the Near and Near Horizon team. 100% of the individuals and projects completed the program, which is phenomenal. You never see 100% completion scores on these sorts of pages. And there's 100% interest from all of the participants in continuing to build on Near. Again, lots of folks are here. Lots of people are working out how to take their ventures forward, working out what ventures they're going to work on next. So, going back to that mission and ambition of building awareness of the Near ecosystem and the blockchain operating system, tick, right? Over 900 people were so interested they signed up for an event. Over 300 new developers onboarded. We've identified and nurtured some really high potential student entrepreneurs and taken them a significant way on their journey, towards becoming, the startup founders of the future. I'm gonna stop with the monologue here. I think the best way to bring this to life is to bring some of the folks on stage, have a conversation about the program, the experience, the projects that they've built, and what they're going on to do next, other than having made the journey from 3 different continents to be here in Lisbon and speak to you all today. So thank you very much for listening. I'm going to welcome my panel onto the stage, and we'll get into a much more interesting discussion than I can cover on my own. Sir? Yeah, you gotta do it. Come on up, folks. Grab a seat. I'll sit at the end here. Whoa. All right, here we go. I'd like to start with some intros. So let's go across the group here. yeah, what I'd love to hear, just a little bit about yourself and your background. We'll get into the projects and all of that stuff next. So yeah, Michael, could you kick us off?
Yeah, so I'm Michael. I studied finance and business at the University of Toronto in Canada. And currently I'm interning at Cloudbreak Pharma, which is a round D pharmaceutical company in Hong Kong. And I'm helping them IPO at their finance office. So I first became interested in Web3 through this hackathon. And I can't wait to tell you more about my experience throughout the fellowship.
Hi, I'm Franklin from Nigeria. I study statistics in a university in Nigeria. I learned about this hackathon from a mail I received from MLH. And yes, I can't wait to tell you more about it.
Hi everyone, I'm Will. I run the MLH Fellowship Program, so it's my responsibility to make sure these two have a fantastic experience, and hopefully I'll be able to give you a little bit more insight into what the program structure's like and yeah, what they got up to.
So you might be wondering why we've got an MLH colleague on the panel here. Two of our projects couldn't be here in person, due to other commitments and some of the logistical challenges of getting across the world. So really, Will's going to cover two roles. One, to talk about the experience that MLH had working with NEAR, no pressure, folks, and two, to represent some of the experience and the learnings and the outcomes of the other two projects that couldn't be here today. So we've covered a little bit about yourselves and the event. I'd love to learn about personally what attracted both of you to the program, to the hackathon, to the Incubator program, and actually to trying out working in Web3 yourselves for the first time. Michael, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, so I've been doing hackathons for a while now, over 20 of them, most of them MLH. And I just saw this email notification about this Web3 build hackathon sponsored by NEAR. And I thought, oh, that's really cool. Like, I've heard about Bitcoin, I've heard of Ethereum, but what's this NEAR token sort of thing? So I thought that because the other cryptos are sort of more well-established now, there isn't that much upside. So that's why I decided to give this rather unknown chain a bit of a chance. And that's what attracted me to this fellowship. There's a high upside, and I always want to learn more about Web3, so this is a good opportunity to do that.
All right, so yeah, I always wanted to learn about Web3, so it was one reason why we joined. And then, like most people want to be founders, but then you don't know how to go about it, you don't know how to get started. So when we saw that the Incubator program was part of the advantages of the producing, so that was one of the reasons why we applied, yeah.
Awesome. All right, I think it's time to get into the project. I'm going to start with Will at the end here. Could you just give us an overview of the two other projects?
Yeah, so the two other projects were MediBridge and Transpact. MediBridge was kind of targeting how healthcare records are a little bit fragmented, they're kind of hard to access, and so they were using blockchain to make it easier to have one set of records that everyone can access, but also having that security behind it. And then there was Transpact, which we're looking at contracts and how you can make that both transparent while being secure, as the name sort of implies. So kind of two different angles, but both with like interesting problems to solve.
Franklin.
Okay, yeah, so StoreHub is a one-click e-commerce solution. Yeah, with features like co-ownership, social media integration, and it's built on here because of the security and also to enable fiat payment. Yeah, the StoreHub is targeted at small businesses, small and growing businesses. We are looking to migrate your business from social media into like something to have like an inventory system, and yeah.
Franklin, tell us a bit more about the inspiration. What are some of the problems that you saw that you felt like StoreHub could solve?
Okay, so I don't know how businesses work like outside Africa, but in Africa, most students, people who really don't own a store or own a very small store, they want to sell their products, and most time they rely on social media, especially like WhatsApp. Okay, so one of the things that we noticed was that if you put your business on WhatsApp, after like a while, maybe in 6 months, you cannot tell how much you've made. If you own the business with a friend, one person has to control it, and then you cannot have another person. It's like a problem with that. If people wanted to pay you with crypto, there could be like a problem with that. And so we thought about what could be the solution for these small businesses. Okay, so the first thing we thought about was to have like a co-integration feature where two people can co-own a store, and then also you can own a store with your friend and then have like 50-50%, so where you can make both decisions equally. You could also like employ maybe a salesperson and then give them like 30% access to the store. And then we also, another thing was, um, sorry, let me get it right. So one other thing that we thought about was the payments. Okay, so most of the times when they have like the whole, you could make payment and the owner hasn't received the money or stuff. So we want to start like that middleman. So they make the payment to us and then we make the payment to them. Yeah.
Awesome. This is such a good example of one where there are huge opportunities in emerging markets that don't exist in markets like the US, for example, and two, where using this kind of virtual distributed program allows you to bring ideas in from all around the world. So that's really awesome to hear. Michael, tell us more about your project and the inspirations that
Yeah, sure.
behind it.
So Tradement started as an IP management platform. One of our team members during the hackathon works in a VC firm, and one of the most tedious and annoying things to do in VC is preparing all the documents for managing IP as well as exchanging IP. So currently, for example, if you're in the US, if you want to exchange a patent with somebody or you want to purchase a patent, you must first file a very long form with the United States Patent and Trademark Office. And it's not even Web 2, it's like a very basic form where you have to like mail in documents. It's very annoying. So we created Tradement to have a Web 3 on-chain solution where the data is freely available and it's transparent and you always know who has ownership of what. So that was the inspiration behind Tradement.
Awesome. We'll get more into some of the kind of features and stuff in detail later on, but I want to take a step back and get a little bit into the experience of the program itself. So we talked a bit about how you heard about it. Let's get into the first stage of the program. Michael, do you want to kick us off? Like, what was the launch hackathon like? That weekend-long hackathon where you really, I guess, had your on-ramp into the world of NEAR. Talk to us about your hackathon experience.
Yeah. Well, it was really fun, but a little bit stressful. It was actually during Canada Day, so I had to balance that along with the festivities. But I thought it was really interesting how we could basically create these smart contracts just using JavaScript, which is a language I'm familiar with. So I thought that was something very new to me, that you could just code these smart contracts in JavaScript. And also, it was sort of a rush to get everything done because my team members are also busy that weekend. And in the end, I'm glad that we were able to submit something on time.
Okay, so sorry, could you ask the question again?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, the experience of the hackathon, the weekend-long hackathon.
Yeah, so it was interesting, but then like there was no time. It was like very short time, so we had to work overnight. But like we had the idea overnight. We had the idea like previously, and so when we started working, and we had like four. Someone was working on like the smart contracts, and then two others were working on the front end, and then we almost didn't submit. The time was very short, but we could submit something.
Will, do you have anything you want to add from the MLH side? I know we had a lot of really strong engagement from the NEAR team, like running workshops, doing the opening ceremonies and the judging and collaboration.
Yeah, people were really, really interested in this event, especially with the fact that there was the incubator part as the prize. So we saw lots of really interesting projects, and I know the NEAR team can vouch for this. Like, it was difficult to judge. There was a lot of competition, and so yeah, it was definitely difficult to narrow it down to just 4 projects for the actual incubator program. But yeah, seeing so many people kind of just jump on this bandwagon and just get super involved was really, really cool.
Yeah, I think I'd add to it. There was an interesting new model that we set up here. What we've heard time and again here at MLH is that it's very difficult to build a substantial Web3 project in the scope of a hackathon with that time pressure, with the feeling of the clock ticking, especially when it's like, only a few days long. So one of the things that we did here was actually to, instead of putting a bounty on a hackathon, put a prize of getting into a sort of incubation accelerator type program, which is a really different paradigm, and I think it was incredibly successful. You can see there was a lot of motivation to get there, even stress to get projects over the line and get them all submitted. I want to ask both of the fellows, the program participants here, what did it feel like when you heard that you won?
Oh, it felt like amazing. Like, since I didn't come from a Web3 background, I didn't think that we would be able to make anything happen in just a weekend. But through persistence and staying up till like 5 a.m., we were able to pull through and submit it. So I was just elated that my team was able to win entry into the Incubator program.
For me, it was unreal. Like, I never participated in a hackathon before, but then I never thought we could win one. Like, I see hackathons everywhere, and I think that do people even really win this? So, like, when we won, it was like we couldn't sleep that night. I didn't eat. It was that interesting.
Amazing. I love it. It sounds like a potentially life-changing moment for both of you. So we transition from the hackathon into the incubator program. So you're paired up with your pod leaders. You're in your pods. Everybody's onboarded, starting to go through the training and the content with the NEAR team. How did that program support the development of your project? So building out your product and your technology, how did the framework of that program help you build out your idea?
Yeah, so it's difficult building on blockchain for the first time. And without the support of technical mentors like Ken from NEAR, it would have been very difficult for us to build anything. The documentation is not very mature now, so that was very helpful from a technical perspective. From business perspective, this was our first time trying to build a product out of a hackathon project, which is very difficult and very different from the traditional hackathon experience. So with help from mentors from both NEAR and MLH, we were able to think about the business aspect of things, like go-to-market plans and pitch decks, and what are your users, and where is this going to go? So for that, I'm super thankful for everyone at the NEAR Foundation and MLH for getting us through the process.
I mean, yeah, like you said, the technical side was always like interesting. The business side, we never we just build projects and leave them. So thinking about building a project to become a product, it was so interesting. And then having like help, I never thought about. So there's one question we had one time: How do you intend to get your first 100 users? Like, we never thought about things like that. Go-to-market strategy. Yeah, it was interesting. And then there was always like this form of accountability with the meetings. So we had like pod meetings Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays, and then we had like stand-ups. So if you didn't do anything like in the weekend, there's going to be a retrospective on Monday. So you just push something and so I can say I did something. So I feel like the whole incubator program was really helpful in building the project.
Awesome. So we've talked a bit about mentorship, about technical support, about learning some of the business fundamentals, right? Thinking about a go-to-market, thinking about your users. That's something nobody's ever done in a hackathon before. So I'd love to hear all of that. And I guess the accountability structure of being in a program like this. What are some of the other key things that we were thinking about, Will, as we were running through this program, making sure these projects were going to flourish?
Yeah, there was like sort of two interesting aspects, right? Like what the fellows already said, right? It's difficult to like get stuck in with Web3, right? And like build a full project quickly, right? It's like a completely new paradigm, lots of new ways of thinking, right? So it took a little bit of time for fellows to ramp up. The NEAR team provided loads of useful curriculum and mentorship. And like they said, like we're building while NEAR's building. So there's like things are changing as we're changing. So there was sort of that challenge too, that it's also new that like people don't necessarily know right now. So that's like one interesting aspect. And then the other is like the program provided a really nice accountability piece for the fellows. So like the others mentioned, we had like stand-ups 3 times a week, a weekly retrospective, as well as demos every 4 weeks. And so that really kind of like gave the fellows a nice structure. You know, they weren't just like, right, I've got my project, I have some ideas, now I just got to like, you know, somehow turn it into a finished product somehow. You know, that structure and that framework really helped them, you know, make sure they were progressing, and they weren't like, oh, I'll just do it next week. I'll just do it next week. And before you know it, it's been like 3 or 4 months and you've not actually done anything. So to see them, you know, take their projects from even the first demo in our 4th week of the program to the last week, you could really see how that accountability really helped their projects grow and improve.
Awesome. So we've talked a bit about the program structure, the accountability, the journey. I'd love to get into the meat of some of those pivots and changes of direction, the evolution of your projects that you went through. Do you want to kick us off, Michael, with how took shape? So I know even the name of the venture changed throughout the program for your team.
Yeah, so initially we were Near IP because we were built on Near and we were an IP management platform. But we ran into a couple issues with that, which is, first of all, no one knew how to pronounce it. Like, is it Near RIP? Is it Nia RIP? Like what is it? And also the domain name was like not available, nearip.org. So we went with trademint.org instead because we wanted this to be a marketplace. So that's where the trade part comes in. And also minting, people associate that with Web3. And also I like the color green, so we went with trademint. And that was the major pivot in our strategy. Another thing we had to pivot was instead of implementing the full marketplace using smart contracts, which is very difficult, you need to get the approval system right. We made it so that users could give patents as sort of a gift, sort of. So basically the negotiation happens on our platform. And then once you work out a deal and the final price, it's up to the user to initiate the transaction. So that was another major feature pivot that we had to go through during the process.
We first started as a Web3 Shopify, but then you always get questions like, why should we use you instead of Shopify? You know, like, so when you hear questions like that, we start making like, so one feature we thought about was, since these businesses are coming from social media, why not have like a social media integration feature where if an order is made on the app, then they receive like a message on their social media account. So we first started like Web3 Shopify, but then over time we're adding like other features and right.
Awesome. And how about other pivots from the other two projects? Well, can you share any interesting forks in the road or bumps on the journey for some of the other teams?
Yeah, I mean, like, an interesting thing we observed with the fellows was that, you know, with it being a Web3 program, they were trying to do a lot of things with Web3, but sometimes that wasn't always like the best approach, right? Some things are really, really good in Web3, but other things it's better to, you know, maybe do it in Web2 or whatever, and it's finding that nice balance. And so we sort of saw across all the teams, right, a bit of a challenge here where, you know, they were like not really sure how to best optimize their projects for what they were trying to build, right? So we gradually saw that, like, and with the mentorship from the Near team, they were able to figure out what they were trying to do there. But yeah, that's sort of the main sort of like pivot point was, you know, we don't actually need to do everything in Web3 here. We should just like focus on the bits that Web3 do really, really well, and you know, go all in on that. So you did see a lot of like people rewriting what they were doing right after like week 6, especially from the hackathon, right? Completely different change like for what they did then. But yeah.
Awesome. We started talking about building on Web3 in a bit more detail here. So I'd love to hear what the on-ramp journey was like for both of you as you know, as going through this program. What did that look like? You know, getting started with Near. What were some of the hurdles that you met? And you know, how did the program help you overcome those?
Yeah, so the biggest hurdle in the beginning, getting started with the Near SDK, was we initially wanted to write it in Rust because it's safer, and especially if you have financial transactions, which we intended to do with a patent marketplace, it's just better to write it in Rust. But the problem is, I didn't know Rust, and none of my team members knew Rust. So we spent a long time trying to learn Rust, but we eventually figured out that wasn't the best use of our time, and it's kind of better to build an MVP that you can get out into the world with whatever knowledge and tools you have, rather than trying to nitpick what like the new languages or make the perfect product. So like, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good is what I'm trying to say.
So we had like someone work on the smart contract, but I know that one problem that we were having was he was asking like what to store on chain and what not to store on chain, and then the other one was we didn't want to like give users the whole Web3 login thing where you have to remember your 2F key, passphrase, and the rest. So we did like the Web2 login, and then on the back end create like a web in-year account for you.
I think that's a really good example, right? So a lot of people get bogged down, as Will was saying as well. You know, I'm building you know, a DApp. It's a Web3 venture. Everything's got to be distributed. Everything's got to, you know, you've got to log in with your wallet. Sometimes it might actually make sense to keep your, you know, your login Web2. You know, use something off the shelf and focus your time and your efforts and your development investment on where you're really adding value by using a decentralized solution. That's really insightful. Will, is there anything anything else on the on-ramp and the journey to build on Web3 that you reflect on about the program? and perhaps even for us at MLH getting started on NEAR as well.
Yeah, I mean, like we had this curriculum provided by NEAR, but the curriculum was sort of being developed and changed as NEAR was being developed and changed, right? And so fellows were having that ramp up onto Web3, but it was challenging because the resources were limiting. Ken did a fantastic job of providing, resources as the fellows were going. They were hungry for it, right? But yeah, it's just, when you try and, do something with a JavaScript framework, right? There's plenty of information on the internet, right? There's years and years of stuff on there. It's really easy to pick it up, but some of the teams like MediBridge and Transpac, they were like, okay, we've got an idea, but we don't actually know how we're gonna make this a reality. And so yeah, seeing that kind of ramp up as they use as much documentation as we could get, training material and all that. We generally found that was sort of the main thing.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. You're building an embryonic product or company in a fast changing and evolving platform and ecosystem in a completely nascent industry. So there's lots of levels of uncertainty and change to be unpacking throughout the program. Awesome. So I think, Will, you talked there a bit about like the navigation of the platform and the documentation and all of that stuff. Were there any kind of points at which the program actually gave some valuable insight and information back to the NEAR team, about that on-ramp and that journey for new developers?
Yeah, I think like the key thing, right, especially with the NEAR Foundation, right, they want to help get more people into NEAR, right, and get people using NEAR. And so getting real-time feedback from the fellows on, oh, I'm trying to do this thing, how do I do it? And it was like, oh, we don't have any material on that or any documentation. We should add that to our roadmap. Or, seeing that, what do users actually want from NEAR and getting that feedback in more detail than you would typically get at like a hackathon, which is very anecdotal, very simple, normally quite generic, whereas, the fellows are giving quite in-depth feedback. They're like, I'm trying to do this very specific thing, I'm having limitations, and then, the team were like, oh, interesting, we can, either they wouldn't have helped them figure it out and then realize we can, do more documentation, maybe new resources, or they go, oh, actually, it doesn't do that right now, but maybe that's something, we could look into in the future.
Yeah, really interesting. We often talk about these sorts of fellowship programs as being a captive audience, and the timing of the program launching just after the launch of the blockchain operating system was no coincidence. It was very intentional. I think perhaps the participants didn't realize it at the time, but to some extent you were guinea pigs, of what it's like to build a brand new venture from the ground up in the blockchain operating system. All right. We talked a lot about some of the technical and the on-ramping to the platform. I'd love to hear more about what it feels like for someone from pretty typical student background to suddenly be trying to build a venture. Can you share a bit about that journey? Like how did that go in terms of thinking about building a product for the first time?
Yeah, well, I've always been thinking more about entrepreneurship and building a company from the ground up rather than working for someone else. I think in the current day and age, that's probably more stable than most traditional jobs, given the economy and whatnot. So for me, transitioning was not super difficult. It was just a change of the set of tools that I was always used to, from Web 2 to Web 3.
We've never had, for me, I've never had to think about users, or I just build side projects and use them. So thinking about the business side of things started opening my mind. I never thought one time woke up. Of course, I wanted to have a startup, but it wasn't in this time, So transitioning wasn't very easy. I mean, you'll be in meetings and someone will just say, why should we use you? I said this before. Why should we use you over Shopify? And you're wondering because you never thought of these kind of things before. So it wasn't very easy transitioning, but we're here.
Yeah, it's interesting looking at all of the projects because they, only solely focused on building technical projects, right? Maybe it's something that they would use, but they hadn't really thought about the wider picture. And I think there was an interesting transition of it's not just about what we do, right? Who actually wants to use these projects and thinking about potential competitors, what already exists out there. I mean, Michael's already talked about how they did a bit of a rebrand, and there was a few projects where they were like, this already exists, what are we actually doing here? Like, we should like focus on that one thing that this other thing doesn't do very well and go all in with that. And so I think something that where the program really helped the fellows was like making them think a bit more about all the other stuff, right, that comes into building a product, and helping make sure that they weren't just like wasting their time running, like building, down a rabbit hole, realizing that actually no one wants that, it's just them, and it's not really something that will survive very long in the world.
Awesome. Yeah, I think what I'm hearing from all of you here and heard throughout the program is it's not so much that participants don't have the capabilities to do a competitor analysis or plan a sprint of development, but it's perhaps not something that would cross your mind, right? It's almost that you need prompting about what to do. So right, what features are you going to build over the next 2 weeks, the next month? Write them in a list, prioritize them. That kind of prompting can be really, really helpful as well in terms of getting you thinking. Right. As we're starting to get towards the end of the time here, I want to ask all of you here. I'll start with Michael again. What moment were you most proud of throughout the program?
I think the moment that the smart contracts actually started working and we could read and write data from it and it showed up on the command line, I was like, oh my God, this technology is actually real. It actually works. It's not just like some made up thing in cyberspace. So I think that was the proudest moment, especially since I had to work really hard on it and also ask for help from the mentors from NEAR. So it was just a really good feeling when it finally worked out.
For us, it was the last pitch, the last demo, because we were trying to work on a particular feature to make sure it was available before then. And then like we were in like another city. We were trying to like apply for visa, and we were working and like everything. And then on the pitch day, like we did like super well, and yeah, we were very proud about that.
The pictures were definitely awesome. Will, I know you ran a graduation ceremony. You talked to lots of the participants about some of their proudest moments. Are there any that you can reflect on here?
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of them had the same thought as Franklin, right? That final demo, especially because we did it with Outlier Ventures, where they gave the fellows loads of useful feedback and insight. There was a little bit more pressure there. They're like, oh, I want to make sure this is a good pitch. And yeah, hearing the fellows' reactions afterwards, they were, over the moon. They felt very, like we've actually, built something that's polished, has a clear goal of what it's trying to achieve. And it makes sense to people who aren't us, who've spent all day, every day living in it. So, that, the demo piece is often, overlooked by developers, but, they got so much value out of that, especially when we like compared it to their original demos they did in week 3. And they're like, wow, I barely had a slide deck. I went on a ramble about what the project actually was. No one really followed what I was saying. But once I got a little bit coached on how to do that demo, right, I felt like I came out of the program and was like, yeah, I know how to, think of all the things, right? Yeah, really interesting to sort of see that perspective from them.
So let's get into the demos. We structured the program around these monthly demos, and the final one was really the kind of the end of the program, a celebration of what you've done, and an opportunity to share that not only with the wider NEAR ecosystem, but also with some potential investors. Can you both just tell me a little bit about what you demoed, right? Like, what was the functionality that you had built at that point? What were you able to put forward and show the world?
Yeah, so we got basically all the features that we wanted to get working by the demo, so that was really good. We were able to log in using the NEAR wallet, and users could upload a patent to the blockchain, and they could see other people's patents, and also send patents to a NEAR wallet address. So that was what we demoed during the demo, and we were really proud that it worked.
For us, like we only missed out one feature, which was like the social media integration feature. But then there was one big one we were planning to work on, and it was the co-integration feature. We had that ready because, like in the previous demo, we had like 0 feature, just log in. It was almost like a landing page. But then at that time, we built like the social media integration feature, enable users upload products and others in common see it, and checkout system. Yeah.
So some pretty fully fledged prototype MVP type products. I saw some fantastic pitch decks, some business strategies in there, as well as some technical products. So fantastic. My last question here, as we wrap the session, hopefully getting back on time here for Bianca, is what happens next?
What
what are the plans for yourselves in the ecosystem and for your projects?
Well, I think we're going to actually get the marketplace functioning where you can give approval to the marketplace to move the patents for you. Other than that, I'm excited to keep building the Near ecosystem. We already have something to do with streetwear and merchandise, which I think will be really cool.
Yeah, for us, we have like a roadmap from now to February. We plan to launch an MVP. So the key thing for us is to have the social media integration feature working, and then like we have a plan on how to onboard the first 100 users, and then plan to launch by February.
So as well as being here in Lisbon talking about the project, Michael's already building the next set of ventures. Franklin's got a roadmap to publicly launch an MVP. Pretty phenomenal. Any final thoughts, Will, from what's next for the other two projects?
Yeah, so MediBridge they're thinking of taking some time off college and university so they can go and, really take MediBridge to the next level. And Transpact have started to meet up with Web3 communities in India. They're starting to speak to other founders, other people in the community, and get as much feedback as they possibly can so they can really understand who wants Transpact and how they can make it as best as possible. So it's really cool to see these both these projects, even though the program ended back in September, really eager to take their projects to the next level and keep building them.
And obviously, we've got the pipeline into the HZN2 cohort in January as well to think about here. Thank you all for your time. Fantastic to have you and share some of the insights here. If anyone wants to get in touch with any of the projects, check out the slide, check out some of the materials coming out soon from the NEAR Foundation group as well. Thank you all for listening.
All right, super excited. Who had issues onboarding when they first started doing something in Web3? Okay, pretty much everybody, right? So I'm very excited about this talk from Luís Freitas of Mintbase, who is going to be talking about fixing some of the onboarding issues so we don't have blockers for new users. Come on stage.
Where do I get the controller? This one? Okay, got it. All right. Hey, everyone. My name is Luís. And yeah, I'm here to talk a bit about things that Mintbase is trying to use or do to fix onboarding and pretty much resolving some of the onboarding issues we faced with crypto. So Mintbase has been around for a while. We've been trying many things. We tried so many experiments. And I want to first talk a bit about Minsta. And it stems from minting in an instant, right? So users can come to the app, pretty much just take a picture, mint a token, and then share it on a general feed. This is a perfect experience for anyone, just getting onboarded. It's the 0 to 1 NFT experience users generally understand. So we started this last year. We tried it in a few events, and we learned a few things. We learned that many people don't really have access to funds. We learned that there's a bunch of crypto-curious people that are in crypto conferences, but they don't have crypto. We learned that there are people afraid to connect to apps that they don't really trust yet, and I think that's pretty wise. And then the best one for me is like their ledgers at home. Sounds like an excuse, but probably isn't, because, well, yeah, some people just interface with apps through ledgers or hardware wallets. So we took all of these things we learned and we changed a few things. Well, just pretty much two things. We changed how easy it is to create an account and how easy it is to mint tokens without any funds. So I know a bunch of people here already tried this, but for those who didn't, feel free to scan the QR code and try this app, or just visit minsta.mintbase.xyz. I would love to show up in the feed now. So I want to see some phones scanning the QR code. Thank you. But yeah, so time is limited. But for you getting onboarded through Minsta, you'll also notice that we have the Mintbase wallet, which is a new thing I'll introduce in a couple slides. And for the developers interested to play around with this, there's this repo called Minsta. So go to github.com/mintbase/Minsta. It's this experience. You get the wallet experience. You get everything for free. And yeah, we just want to see more forks of this and experiments in general. But yeah, the wallet. So what is our wallet, and what are the things that we're doing with the wallet that is quite different from other wallets in the space? So going through the Minsta experience, you notice that you'll see that transactions are free. So we're leveraging meta transactions, and meta transactions just essentially mean that the users can sign the transaction, and then some other account, the relayer account in this case, will sponsor the cost of this transaction. This is quite important because in the future we plan to open up the relayer for pretty much everyone to like do things. So let's say a user can sponsor their users' transactions, or a company that wants to get that onboard users, they can do it too. For now, Mintbase is covering the cost of Minsta transactions, and yeah. We're also using WebAuthn, or web authorization and passkeys to store key pairs securely on user's device. This on iPhones, it looks like this. So you store it on your keychain, and then signing transactions, you can do it via Face ID. On your computer, it might be fingerprint or passphrase. There are several ways. It's a web standard. It's pretty secure. And of course, we use human-readable names too to create, well, human-readable names, thanks to Near. And how does all this work? Some people are probably not comfortable yet with the Near account system, but let me just cover a bit of how it works. So you go through the Mintbase wallet, you create a key pair on your laptop with permissions for everything, so it's a full access key, and then you might create a function, full access key too on your phone that has permissions to sign any transaction, right? So in case your cell phone is lost, you can still, with the key pair 1, you can revoke the access to key pair 2, and then when you buy a new phone, you can generate a new key pair for that phone. In case you don't really trust the app you're connecting to, you might be able to create a function call key. So it has limited permissions. For example, this one, it's a VR headset function call key, and the only permission to the app is just minting, right? But this is just the beginning. We're just starting to experimenting with the wallet, simple experiences, but we have bigger plans for the future, and we want to facilitate even more like the onboarding experience and the crypto experience in general. And our plans is to let users use everyday language for everything, right? How can you do that? We learned a new thing that's quite recent called function calling on LLMs. So ChatGPT, for example, supports this. And essentially, you can convert natural language into API calls or database queries, or even extract structured data from text. So we went on and built 2 plugins, one called Action and the other Search. So Action allows you to transform queries into database queries, transform a prompt into a database query, submit that, and get the result, as you can see here. So on the right, that would be like the normal developer way, and then on the left, it's pretty much the same result, but you're just prompting with natural language. And then Mintbase Action allows you to do the same thing, but for transactions on chain. So no need to code, just say, I want to send this token to this account, and it will do it for you. Since ChatGPT and OpenAI have like very strict policies, we cannot really do on-chain mainnet transactions, so we had to build a solution. And thanks for Alex Kidanov to like shout out Mintbase AI yesterday. It's free for now. Mintbase AI lets you use ChatGPT for Turbo since this week. And I want to show you a couple of prompts in how this works. I had like a demo prepped, but like this is super, I don't have a lot of time here. So let's just scroll through some of the potential prompts you can use. You can ask, what's my account? And you'll have your address. You'll see which network you're connected to, and you'll see the balance. You can also ask, what tokens do I own in my collection? And well, it's summarized 24 tokens on mainnet. That's cool. And now I want to see some more details, right? So if you ask, show me details, it still keeps the context of the previous prompts, and will show you like details about each token on your collection. You can also ask it to generate images. This is not on-chain, but every image generated is stored on Arweave, so it's sort of on-chain. I asked it to like generate an image of Rick and Morty. I'm not sure about the copyright here, but that's fine. And then I can ask, I want to mint this token on my contract. And it will combine 2 function calls, one submit query to see if I have any contract to mint on, and then generate a transaction to which I can mint. And that's it. So how can this be applied to the onboarding experience? Well, users can just go through this and learn how to use safely in a playground environment. But in the future, we want to like educate even more, right? So we want to use, for example, this, right? So you want to sign a transaction. This is one of the biggest problems to users, right? That they sign transactions sometimes that they don't really know anything about. And that might be an issue. So yeah, we want to let users just ask what are they're signing and get a description of the transaction. So this is it. So I have 2 minutes. So yeah, Mintbase is also starting the cohort, the Mintbase grants soon. So if you have any idea, you're building some project and you're excited about NFTs and crypto and improving user experiences, go to github.com, Mintbase grants program. And yeah, submit your PR and we'll be reviewing and giving you feedback soon. I have a minute, so thank you. Please follow these accounts, mine especially. I don't know if I have time for Q&A here, but still have a minute, 30 minutes, 30 seconds. Is there any question? Good. So you submit a proposal with your the amount of funding and what are your plans and what you want to build. And yeah, I think that's it. The guidelines are very specific and they're detailed on the. Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, that's a very broad question, I think. But the vision, again, is simplifying as much as possible, and the goal is, reducing even more the complexity of using crypto. That's kind of like, I think, the bigger vision. So using new tech like AI to simplify that as much as possible. I think that's it. Thank you so much. Yeah.
All right, we've reached almost the end. Last but not least, we'll welcome the last speakers here. One quick announcement, this stage closes right after this talk right here, and then we will be heading over to headquarters where all the hackathon awards and presentations will be done. So make sure to head over that way. So who went to one of the side events this week? Oh, come on, really? 3 people went to a side event? Yeah, okay. So I'm really happy to be welcoming Proof of Vibes, Ant Marshall, and Russ Ballard to talk about how in real life events can really help scale the ecosystem.
Yes,
on, everyone? Check.
Let's go. They got chairs. I was really planning to get on my Steve Ballmer real quick, just walk around here, get sweaty, but this is amazing.
Good morning, good afternoon.
Good
My
evening.
Name is Ant Marshall. Is it good evening?
I don't know. It's good evening,
It's good
somebody,
evening
somewhere.
Right,
So yeah,
Russ.
let's jump into
jump
it.
into it.
I'm Russ, co-founder and chief vibe officer over at Proof of Vibes. Super excited just to be talking with you guys here today and walking through the vibes and what that actually means on chain.
What does it mean? I feel like I
Man.
need to interview you the way we're sitting. So, Russ Ballard, what does it mean? What do vibes mean on chain?
Man, I really think we just take a step backwards and figure out how we came to this point, right? What happened? How did we get to even bring in vibes on chain and the importance and what that looks like? Like ultimately starting off, I grew up in Philadelphia, ended up moving to Austin, Texas, which created this paradigm for me and just shifted the way I think. And so South by Southwest 2021, me and Ant are going out and about, moving and grooving, and ultimately realize like, all right, there's so many different events. There's so much going on. How do we know what's going on before we get there, right? Like, what does that actually look like? And how pivotal, because I'm a person who goes to a lot of different conferences, always doing the little circuit, and like there's so many different side events. How do I know which one I should go to before I get there, right? So the idea Proof of Vibes spawned. Being able to understand and have quality verification about an event before you get there, let alone understanding the vibes aspect of it and how it translates to in-person events in regards to your identity.
That part. And I mean, just to add on there, you know, a lot of us, we talk about vibes, you know, when you go to an event, you know, a friend of yours may say, well, what's the vibe there, right? You'll get that text because a lot of us are dealing with FOMO, right? You're sitting in bed. I literally was doing this. It was like opening night party. I'm in bed. I'm like, I should go. Send me a photo. Send me a video. And so it was literally that simple. But the truth is, in Web3, like, there's so many rabbit holes that you have to go down to really understand this thing. Some of you that are developers and coders, this is like secondhand information for you. But as we talk about really scaling what this is to the rest of the world, we really need like simple onboarding approaches. And that's really where this came in. It was like, you know, we were honored by what POAP did in the early days, which was really simple to QR code yourself into Web3. But then it really kind of just dropped you off, right? You got this NFT in your wallet, didn't know what it did. And we were like, well, what if we took that to the next level? You know, what if when you get to that event and you QR code in to this world, you're able to rate the vibe, you know? How do we quantify what a vibration is? So
Precisely.
we could get into a little of that.
So you ask yourself, what is Proof of Vibes?
Right.
Proof of Vibes is a vibe-to-earn protocol incentivizing tastemakers to get paid for curating good vibes. And we can hit the next slide. Do we have a little clicker? Or?
And I feel like I need to stand up.
Sensational.
Yeah.
Let's get it. All right. So a couple of things we want to talk through today. Identity through IRL events. What is a DID? VCs, verifiable credential, strategic partnerships, quality verification, and revenue models.
What does all that mean? So part of the problem we're looking at, right? Again, we're talking about scale. For me, a little bit about my background. Started a company in 1991, almost 33 years ago, called Lyricist Lounge. We were an open mic, a showcase venue, turned tour, turned albums with Raucous Records, turned MTV show. It was all about bringing the underground of hip-hop, you know, the underground hip-hop culture to the mainstream. From there, I kind of moved on to doing other things, launched a company with Al Gore called Current TV. This is back in 2005, where user-generated content was a new thing. Now we call it social media. But having gone through that whole journey, where we are now is social media has really taken hold of all the creatives, right? They've gamified it in a way where every day you feel like you have to upload to keep up, to get followers. We all know the deal. But now the artists have caught up to that. Like, I'm not doing that shit anymore, right? And they've heard about Web3. They want to come into it, but they need a simple approach to doing that. So we've identified that a lot of them are not making money now, and so how do we create a way for them to make money through this process?
Exactly. And then how do we plan to solve this? SSID, that is such a complex and overwhelming, it's overly convoluted.
Scaring the woes.
It's scaring the woes, you know? So at the end of the day, we have to break it down in an easily digestible way, right? And then through IRL activations, not to mention quality verification, vibe checks. This is so essential to the ecosystem. We're not doing enough vibe checks. Community consensus. This is the ultimate mechanism that we need to be using to be able to qualify what is and what is not vibey. And so ultimately, that's our playbook. Community consensus in through tastemakers. And this is vital to understand. You ask yourself, okay, what's a tastemaker? A tastemaker is a person who decides what's going to be cool before it's cool, right? And this is very subjective, what is cool. But ultimately, when we talk about what it is we're trying to do in the near ecosystem and reach 1 billion users, we need those who are going to help onboard the masses and have influence over the masses. And these are tastemakers, a very underrated and I think underrepresented collective and niche.
Yeah. And just to give out some examples of what that would look like, right? Because we could talk words all day. It's a simple app. You QR code once you get to the event. You're able to take a photo with your friend and then rate the vibe. Vibes of people, places, and things. So the place, if it's an event, density. How many people were there? It's okay. Even this place right here. Why don't we do one too? Even this place right here, right? How friendly was the vibe, right? This young woman is smiling. I'm feeling good vibrations from him. This guy looks a little mean, like he wants to beat me up. I'm only kidding. Now I got him to smile, so the vibe is back up. But these are things that I could rate, right? When I mint this photo, it then is a transaction and shows up on Boss, right? So we're creating real-time ways to show transactions very quickly. I don't care what idea you're talking about. If that shit is not translating into transactions, what the fuck are you talking about?
So we're literally, let me retake this real quick. We're going to put vibes on chain, IRL, in person, get in here, Ant. And this is how we quantify vibes. So you're at the spot, like Ant was saying, you rate this event. And you guys probably can't see it on my phone, but nonetheless, we rate events on 4 things: energy, density, friendliness, and diversity. And this is a scale of 1 to 10. And this is what quantifies a vibe in our eyes. Again, energy, density, friendliness, and diversity. And we can go to the next slide. So you rate that on a scale of 1 to 10. I think it's pretty friendly in here. Energy is a little low. I think we're getting to the end of the conference, so it's pretty chill. We're all ready to go home and close out. Density, not that packed nonetheless. I think it's pretty diverse in here. It's a wide range of people. And so again, vibe check, and you can mint that on chain, and now it show up on Boss in the feed.
Exactly.
So first collector to put vibes on chain.
Now, as simple as that is, right? Ultimately, that's his opinion of what the vibe is. What happens when we all do it, right? That's where we get quality verification of this event, or quality verification of an NFT so people are not getting rugged, or quality verification of a person, right? Because a lot of us, when we meet someone, they give us the representative, like, oh yeah, hey, if you got money, they're like, oh yes, everything's, right? But I don't really know you. So what if I had a consensus of who you are, right? That would help. And it may keep you a little more on point as a person, right? As we create a community consensus of who we are and what we're doing.
Precisely. And then the self-sovereign identity aspect.
Deep in the rabbit hole.
Deep in the rabbit hole. It's a lot to digest. I think it's 3 major ideas. You got self-sovereign identity, you having ownership of your identity. This is such a foreign concept to us when we use Facebook, X. I was about to say Twitter, but it's X now. Instagram. We don't actually, believe it or not, we don't actually own those photos that we put out.
Right.
So this is a very interesting use case for blockchain, to be able to have full ownership over whatever content you put out. Then we have decentralized identity. This is an open standard-based identity framework from digital identifiers and verifiable credentials, which then leads me into, okay, what are verifiable credentials? These are basically, it represents physical credentials such as passports or licenses. So this is all digital, and I think that these are like the 3 pillars of what self-sovereign identity is, and just decentralized identity on chain as a whole. So.
And this is like the nerdy explanation, right? In general, what we're doing is building a brand, right? We're figuring out the business model. The general business model is loyalty rewards for events, period, right? You want the elevator pitch? Loyalty rewards for events. But as you go down the rabbit hole, we're solving for a lot more. And now we're thinking about real world assets, et cetera. What if we had localized venues around the world and could fractionalize ownership for the ownership of that, right? And so there's a lot of things there that we're also looking at. But on a high level, we just want to do cool events. We just want to onboard people in a simple way, not over-nerdify what the thing is, right? And then slowly start to bring them into the fold and scale this thing out.
Exactly.
How do we do it?
So, tastemaker down approach. And these tastemakers are so vital to the ecosystem. I hate to say it and break the bad news to you, but it's a bunch of nerds in this ecosystem right now. And I'm a nerd as well. And so I say that very in a very positive way. But I think at the end of the day, when we are just ones and zeros, we lose the human approach, and it doesn't really feel welcoming. When I first joined blockchain, it wasn't the most welcoming space. It wasn't the most inviting. It was a little overwhelming. If I wasn't the person I am and able to make friends and communicate and do what I do, then I probably would have left a long time ago. And I say that to say there are tastemakers out there who have a large influence over crowds that you might not never know. And so being able to have a system, or basically being able to digest this information to them in an easy, conceptualized way so that they can share it to their audiences is vital. And this is what we want to focus on. And I think a perfect example of how tastemaker approaches are actually transferable in real-world examples are Spotify playlists. As you can see, Rap Caviar has over 14 million followers and 7 billion streams. People curate these playlists, put this music together, and some of these songs you might not never heard before, and they end up blowing up and popping. right? These are tastemakers. Tastemakers are ones who curate these experiences, who curate vibes, who curate different things for people.
Absolutely. So this was early on in some of what we were thinking about. The app works in very simple ways. We've all heard of Web 1, 2, and 3. We've created kind of these buckets in a sense. You join the app, anyone can get in, anyone can see what's going on. You can create your own profile. For you to go a little deeper and kind of get Web 2 access and connect with your favorite tastemakers and get a little deeper down, there's a level there. And then there's an additional level where you're actually one of the tastemakers who is a part of our DAO, able to have our token, and then able to work with your localized community to push that out.
Exactly. Earn vibe from reviewing events and become a vibe validator.
Let's talk about that redeem section too, vibe points and redeeming.
It's essential. I think that ultimately rewarding people for going out makes a lot of sense. People are already going to events, and in a lot of the early days, we wanted to be a Web3 Yelp of sorts. So you're able to go to an event, leave a review, and then be rewarded for that, which then creates this circular economy of, okay, imagine a world in which I went to this event, but now because I'm part of this network, because of this community, now I can go to this shop or go to this pop-up and redeem these for cool merch, cool experiences. Loyalty rewards and Web3 is nothing new. I think it's the ultimate value exchange in the chain, right? This is our take on how to do that in a more cultural, curated experience in a way.
Exactly.
Adding our own little bit of flavor.
Yep. Because at the end of the day, I think we're trying to force people to use Web3. Like there are a lot of like high brain reasons why we should use Web3 because we need to blah 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 and take over the system. But in the larger capacity, they're like, okay, show me how I can use it today, right? And as soon as you pull your shit out, most of our things, most of our toys don't work, right? You're like, yeah, all you got to do is and they're like, So now you've lost them, right? You've lost them. And so in order for us to really scale this thing, we got to create things that work. They need to be simple. And then we need to give them space to kind of go deeper down the rabbit hole. And so the redeem section has been that for us. We want to create incredible clothing capsules with incredible designers. We want to show it and promote it as much as possible. And when the world is ready to get it, they can't pay for it. Exactly. Right? So they're texting that tastemaker or whoever, that influencer, hey, how do I get that Proof of Vibes Nike capsule you guys dropped? Oh, you got to join the community, right? That's where the engagement happens. So if they can't buy it, they have to use the thing. Now we have transactions. Now we have some things going on, and that's part of our circle.
Precisely. And again, the experiences, this is so vital. I seen a tweet not too long ago. It said Web3 currently in this market is an events company, and I couldn't agree more, right? In this bear market, as we're all down bad, I think events are what keep us together. There's a circuit, and it's a beautiful thing being able to meet someone at ETHCC and then see them at DevConnect or meet someone at NEARCON this year or last year, and now a year later, and you reconnect with them, and it's all good. It's all friendship.
I mean, Russ, that's how we met.
That's how we met 2 years ago at an NFT NYC and was able to come together, and now we've built a company and thrown events all over the world and had amazing experiences. And I think these are what really translate. And ultimately, as we're in this build season, we must continue to uphold and maintain. So experiences is how we plan to create revenue and create a sustainable and continuous in community, right?
Absolutely.
Private mixers, retreats, game nights, boat parties, cookouts. So these are things we've already done thus far, which have proven successful, and things that we want to scale up globally, right?
We'd also be wrong not to highlight that there are black and brown people on screen.
Believe it.
Right? We need diversity. And it's not just, oh, we need more black people in here. We need diverse thinkers. It's not all about the zeros and ones. I'm a big culture person, and I've said this on repeat. Culture is code. I don't know how to code, but I definitely know how to curate this room. And everyone that would be in this room, from all the people I've ever met, like the coding that's going to come from that, the information that comes from that. So we can create all the zeros and ones we want, but if we don't connect with culture, we don't connect with the people. And if we don't connect with the people, then we won't scale. Then we won't be here next year, right? These rooms are getting smaller. So we're trying to keep this thing going and make sure that it can grow. But we've also recognized that what started as for us about the creatives, we realized that we didn't want to alienate anybody because we're talking to folks who are all zeros and ones. So we went back to the lab and we're like, the truth is it's really a toggle, right? You want to know where the vibes are for the creatives? Toggle down to the creatives. But you want to know where the vibes are with the coders and the developers? Then toggle down to that, because that may be a smaller vibe, a space that doesn't have a lot of loud music. It may be more of a hacker house. And the way you see that is on our app through the map, right? So you toggle down to the developers, and then you see all of the little blips that are coming up on our map, and it's like, oh, something's happening around here. And maybe the spot that you were going to go, there's like 3 people there, so you're like, definitely not going to that
Not a vibe.
VIP situation.
Yeah.
Right?
I would
I'm
add
going
in
where
there,
the people are.
just like Ant said, vibes are very subjective, and
They're
understanding
relative.
that toggle. And there's developers, there's artists, fashionistas, spiritual people, regions, whatever the case might be. So ultimately, how do we curate experiences for them, and how do we still create an inviting space for them? Because this is what we need in Web3. It just can't be purely developers, right? That doesn't really work too well. We need people from all different diverse backgrounds.
To build this thing.
All over. And so if we really want to continuously grow, continuously move forward, this is our goal, and this is what our mission is, to be able to create inviting spaces for all to enjoy, and then be able how that translate on chain.
Yeah, and
right?
build it with you, right? So any of you that are working on companies, if you have ideas that you want to help, you need help scaling this thing, getting in touch with the right folks who can help your specific idea get to a specific group, let us know.
Exactly.
We got about 1 minute and change. If there are any questions, we can totally talk a little more. My friend in the back.
Yes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So
Shout out to the sponsors.
Shout
man.
out to
They've
the
been holding
sponsors.
us down.
Well,
Yeah.
they helped to get the event going for sure, right?
Yeah.
And it's a great question. I think in the redeem section, right, as we partner with brands, let's say they have a new product that they want to put out, and there's a marketing budget they have for that. They could allocate that to us. We could create the experience that people can redeem in the redeem section. Exactly. So now you're getting a hyper-focused community that is engaged in Web3, so you know what kind of type of thinkers they are. And now they are using their vibe check points to redeem it for that product or experience or et cetera. So that's one way. But then the obvious Web 2, Web none ways of them putting up banners and et cetera, and being seen as supporting something real.
Yeah, sponsors are definitely the ones that help us curate experiences and that foundational layer to make it happen. Because a lot of times these events can cost a lot of money, and if you don't got a rich uncle or come from a rich family, then funding it yourself is a little hard. So these founders help us launch these events, and then in exchange for that, we offer like different assets like banners and different placement, and it helps build their brand as well. So I think that it leads to a good point too. How can we become sustainable outside of sponsorships for events? This is a very vital and very important, question to ask. So, but yeah, that's our time. Appreciate y'all.
Also want to
Definitely
give a
check
big
us out.
shout out to NDC. If you don't know about the Near Digital Collective, my guy was the community engagement / events DAO, everything. I was marketing lead for some time. Definitely join the community if you can.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
Creatives DAO and all those who are vibey in the ecosystem.
All the vibey individuals, shouts to you.
Peace.
Peace.
All right. Well, amazing day that we had here, about an hour and a half with Boris, starting with education, and then we had MLH talking about their fellowship, Mintbase and Luís, and wrapping it up with vibes. Gotta love that. That's it for this stage. That's it for this room. Everybody head over to Convento and see what's being built in the hackathon. We'll see you over there.